There we go. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, March 27, 2024. I almost said 26 for some reason, but welcome to the Java Cafe this morning. Listen, we are definitely going to be here for an hour this morning. We had some rescheduling that we needed to do, so you're stuck with me just this morning. Brother Daniel was not able to make it this morning. We were informed yesterday, sending just good, regenerative, positive, self-care, supportive energy to Brother Callahan that's working on a project, art project, I believe a one-man show that is starting this weekend. And so we definitely want to send him some good energy. So you're with me this morning at 9 a.m. And at 9:30, we have the privilege of speaking with Imari Paris Jeffries, who is coming in to talk about the recent harm report issued by Embrace Boston. They have looked at areas of housing, education, arts and culture, symbolism. And so Imari, who is no stranger to the Java Cafe, will join us at 9:30. But let's go in and see who is in this morning and say hello. I'm going to take a few minutes to review the anniversary weekend, send some thank yous. Not going to get too much into names because you wind up missing people when you do that. But good morning, Devon, this morning. He was out this weekend. Appreciate you, brother. We're going to be chatting with him soon. He does great work in community. Going to jump down to this good brother right here. Pops Davis is in the room. Pops, it's good to see you. Hope that you are doing well and taking care of yourself. Also, Uncle Thaddeus is in the room. It's good to see you, Uncle Thaddeus. I've been giving you a little bit of space, but we'll be checking in and bothering you and making sure that you are good. Thank you so much for coming out on Thursday as well. And Pops, it just that strength right there. We send strength your way. For many of you know, Pops is the dad of Anthony Davis, and he had a health issue a few weeks ago. And we're glad to see him in the Java Cafe this morning. Good morning to Heidi as well. Good to see you in the room this morning as well. And also Mama Java, as always, good to see you in the room this morning. Pam, good morning to you. Buenos dias to you. Good to see you in the room. Sister Soraya, good morning to you. Good to see you in the room this morning. Lasagna, good morning to you as well. Good to see you in the room. And Lasagna, that is a good segue. On Friday, we had the opportunity for the anniversary. Well, let's back up a little bit. First, I need to say thank you to everyone that did anything, that purchased tickets, that sent salutations, that sent cash apps, that did whatever. We really appreciate you. Mania Media, good morning. Good to see you over on Instagram this morning. Also to Leslie, Orange City on Instagram as well. Everybody Got to Eat is in the room. We're going to talk about them in a few minutes as well. And so on Thursday, I want to thank Courtney Boston, who switched seats with me and interviewed me on our local network partnership. And also on Friday, during the day, we had the opportunity to go over to 135 Morrissey Boulevard and do a walkthrough of the space over there. So let me see if I actually, I think I have the video. For those of you that did not see it, I actually think I have the video queued up, and I think it's ready now. This goes from, I think, the most recent. So I think we got it good here. Let's see what happens. Y'all pray Jesus. But I think we're good. If I can just get this folder to open. It did not open, but I wanted to show you all just a little bit of the space over at Southline, sponsored by Portal. And so let's get this video queued up and get it ready for you. I think we're all set. That is not the one I need. Okay, I think that is nope. Or is it? That is the one that I need. So we're getting ready to show you that in a minute. So here is what we did on Friday, looking over at the Java with Jimmy that will soon be over at Southline, sponsored by Portal. So that is the space over at Southline, sponsored by Portal, Java with Jimmy, Maysay Studios, one day, maybe. So we did that on Friday. And then on Friday evening, we went over to Long Live Roxbury. I have to shout out Long Live Roxbury. The past 2 Friday nights we've been there. I have to shout out my good brother, Obi. We have pictures that we need to drop from the conversation we had there a couple of weeks ago about creative culture in Boston that featured Charlene, also Idosa from Diaspora Mass, and also Miguel, who is in and a part of the Java fam as well. And so thank you, Obi, for pictures. And text me, bro. I'm terrible at the phone. Text me and we'll be good. Quincy, good to see you in the room, brother. Thank you for wearing red on Saturday at Estella's. We're going to get to that as well. And Pop says, please take care of your health, family. We still have work to do. And that is coming from Pops. So take care of yourselves as he is recuperating as well. And the other thing I wanted to mention is we gave out awards to Tina Sherry. We gave out, we gave out awards. One was to Tina Sherry. One was to also Toy Burton and also Joseph Bennett, who his sister accepted for him. And so we're going to give you just a clip. For those of you that were not able to make it on Friday, we're going to give you just a little clip of their acceptance speeches. And so here is Tina Sherry
honoring us tonight. For you guys, this is my bedtime. I'm literally in bed at this time. I hang out, you know, I party at Club Bed and I, you know, jam to DJ Pillow. And so I'm here for you. You are honoring us, but it's so amazing to just watch you and to see your grace and to see you grow and just to see what God is going to do with you. It's an honor for me to be here, and it's an honor for me to receive this award. Thank you so much.
So along with Tina and Toy, they received the David L. Hart Humanitarian Award, and then we also gave the Community Service Award to Jamal Wernham of One Love Sports Academy and also Donna Williams-Bowen of Determined Divas. And I believe she mentioned that they were doing something else or shifting in their program. So shout out to the two of them. And then also we had the opportunity to present an award to Dr. Thea James. And I think I'm doing all right with the little videos and stuff this morning, y'all. We got it working. Dr. Thea James, we also had given her an award for the Health Equity Champion Award. And I am mentioning here, I believe it's the first time outside of those that attended the event. That award is now, and come on and finish this upload, please. That award now is going to be named in honor of Dr. Thea James. And so I think that I will have that video ready as well. And nope, I dragged over the wrong thing. Hold on. I was being confident just a little too soon, y'all. Hold on, let me get the video. All right, there's Toy, there's Jamal, and here is Dr. Thea James. I'm gonna get it, y'all. We got a good track record with the tech so far this morning. All right, here is Dr. Thea James accepting her award, and I believe it captures me notifying her.
Next year, you will help me make a decision of who gets the award that is now named after you. So we're going to deviate a little bit, Erin, is let her do her speech, and then we'll come back and take the picture.
So, Dr. Thea James, we appreciate everything that you do in the space of health equity. That award going forward will be named after her, and she will have input on the decision for the award, similar to what we've attempted to do in the last couple of years with the Heart Humanitarian Award, also with the Uber Clark Award as well. This year, on me, communication was interesting, but both families signed off on those that got the awards. And then also, I had the opportunity to give the award to a young man by the name of Ross Marshall. I showed you a video a few minutes ago about or the walkthrough over at the Globe Building. This young man, we gave him an award based on the fact of him expanding and his contribution to the Java Cafe, which pretty soon, a couple of times a week, will meet up at 135 Morsi Boulevard and have a live show, either recording or a live show. And so here is the presentation to Ross as well.
Lead with love, you put community first, and I can't wait for you to be broadcasting live from the South Line. Thank you for everything that you do.
So Ross's was a little bit quicker than what I thought, but shout out to Brother Ross as well. And so it is definitely a pleasure for me during my anniversary to give out these awards to those that are having impact in community on humanitarianism, on community impact, and also health equity, and those that are making a great long-lasting contribution to the Java Cafe. So let's go up in the comments and see who else is joining this morning. Misha, good morning. Good to see you in the room this morning. Also, I see Belinda. Good morning to you. Belinda says, morning. Praying for you and sending love, divine healing in Jesus' mighty name. So who's not feeling well? Praying that you are well. Who's not feeling well this morning? Kelly, good morning to you. Good to see you in the room. Someone said that they weren't feeling well. Who is that? Naraki, good morning. It was so good to see you over at the Newsfeed Cafe at the anniversary there. Tay, good morning to you. Good to see you in the room. Ross is cool. Heidi said she met him recently. He's definitely a good brother. Rena, self-care, our self-care sister. Good to see you in the room this morning. Tay, good morning to you. Good to see you in the room this morning. Also, Sharon Cornelius. I feel like I haven't said that in a few days. We got all the charter members in this morning. Dr. Drumright is in the room listening in from Tennessee. Good to see you in the room this morning. And so, yes, the anniversary was great. Now, that was Friday night. Then there was Saturday. The what I call turn up at Estella's. We had a Java Day party again. Thank you to all of you that purchased tickets. Thank you to all of you that came out, and thank you for those of you that tried the Java Peno drink that we had on Saturday. I think I have some footage of that and folks just enjoying themselves. Let me see if I have any video. I'm not sure. That was definitely a good time. I want to thank Estella. Yo, look who's in the room, all the way from, I forgot what part of Georgia, but Officer Jarrell Green is there. And they're here rather in the Java Cafe. It's good to see you, man. Thank you for your service that you used to do here. Got up out of here. Got in some wonderful places, but it's good to see you in the room, protection your way, and thank you for all that you do for community. Quincy said you got to force that at Estella. It is Estella, but we say Estella's. Quincy, leave me alone. We say Estella's. Don't nobody really say Estella except you and Georgie, maybe. And the Java Pino is still on the menu, so make sure you go and try the Java Pino. Everybody that I talked to said they said they liked it. It's a spicy, fruity with tahini on the rim. You can get it with tahini or not. It is definitely this is why I don't mess with the comments. Jarrell, thank you. Appreciate you, brother. Real Java is in the building. Good morning, sir. Did Diddy make it to CV? So if you all notice, I don't talk a whole lot about like the pop culture, a lot of things that are in mainstream media. I will say that in talking about this subject, that it is definitely important that the priority of those that are that may allegedly be victimized, they definitely have to be the priority. We have to censor them. There's a lot of memes and a lot of jokes and stuff going on, but I haven't talked too much about this. Diddy has been accused of a lot. The Fed showed up at his house yesterday. And I've seen comments from, he's not at the top of the chain. I've seen videos and, people can manipulate things and whatnot. And so my thing is pray for him, his mental, and pray for most importantly, those that saying that they are victimized. There's a lot that goes on with that. To come out and admit it, to be ridiculed in the media, somebody needs to tell, and I hope he doesn't pick it back up, but a couple of weeks ago, somebody needed to get Meek Mill and take his phone. So that's just my stance there, real. He said, is anybody else audio lagged? Hopefully not everybody's. That could just be the signal there at work, brother. I hope. And so yes, Quincy Real Java is in the room. He's in here in another space. The audio on Facebook was lagging behind, so I had to come to Twitter. Not sure what that was, but you all let me know if the audio was lagging on Facebook as well. All right, we got all the heavy hitters in the building. Sean said the fact that Sean is answering about sound is a lot. Sean Alexander is Boston's and one of the nation's top musicians that's doing a lot, travels with Fred Hammond. Sean, how is Pastor Key doing? I see a lot on social media. I see him posting, and some of which it includes, those that you think would be there for you. And so please send our love to him and let him know that we're praying for him. Opal, good morning to you. Good to see you in the room as well this morning. Also, Real said he's tired. We all tired because Sunday and a good portion of yesterday, I rested. And I don't know if Ed is in the building, but Ed picked me up on Saturday. And I guess because I'm a little thick, he had to squeeze tight. And over here by the right side of my ribs has been sore. So I'm tired as well, brother, but I'm catching up and doing better. And Sean, thank you. He said that Pastor Key is doing better, slowly getting back to himself. And so we're glad to hear that. There are folks across the country praying for him, but Mama Java and Sharon, add Pastor John P. Key to the prayer list as well. Leave me alone. That eyebrow used to get me in trouble all the time. Listen, in a few minutes, Imari Paris Jeffries is going to come in and chat with us about the harm report that was issued by Embrace Boston. And we're going to just take a quick break right before he comes with us. We'll be right back with you in just a couple of seconds.
For the innovators, the dreamers, the risk takers, independent workers who keep our neighborhoods thriving, Connector Care from the Massachusetts Health Connector has plans for every lifestyle and budget.
Having access to affordable healthcare is for everyone in our community.
Connector Care plans help more people save on healthcare that covers all their needs. Find out if you qualify for Connector Care. Visit mahealthconnector.org or call 1-877-MA-ENROLL.
So I myself am going to be very transparent. I'm getting ready to switch over to Connected Care myself. As an independent worker, that thing, I'm definitely checking it out. So if you are independent worker, please check out Health Connector. If you have a life-changing experience, one of which I just got a new gig, and I now have some income on the consultant side. And so please check out the Health Connector. That first commercial you saw rather features our brother Real Java. That is, we're going to actually build that out more to be an advertisement. So we appreciate him coming down. Let's go back and see who was in the cafe this morning and what's going on amongst the chatter. Okay, all the Ms. is in the room. Yes, Newt, Ms. is in the room. Newt, thank you. Thank you for everything, brother, that you did this weekend. I really appreciate you. I really didn't want to get into a lot of names, but I definitely have to thank Courtney. I want to thank Annie Scheffler and Lee Hill and also Pam Johnston over at the day I get the $1 million contract. Guess who is the last person that I'm going to tell? Nah, he'll be the first one that gets the screenshot, and then probably Anthony Miz. I'm gonna have to send out a group text. But new is coming. It's coming. But I wanted to thank the folks over at our local news network that we past few months have appeared on there. 10 times appeared on there. We want to thank them for their support on Thursday, to Chris, to Howard, to Maddie, to Hannah, and everyone, to Sandra. And I forgot her intern's name. They got me a cake. There were 2 cakes at the local news network on last Thursday. And so again, thanking Courtney and all of them there. On Friday, I want to thank Brian over at Southline, Krisha, the Flavin family, the owners of Portal Innovations, also Alan and Ross Marshall over at Southline Beacon Properties as well. And then the folks at Long Live Roxbury, want to thank them as well. And also Charlene, Helder, and Quincy down at Estella, not Estella's, as Quincy got on me adding the S, but I want to thank them for everything that they did this morning. So yeah. Thank you so much, Leslie, for the congratulations. I'm not sure yesterday I had attempted to, and I don't think we were successful at doing it. And so, Leslie, speaking of congratulations, I just wanted to also share with you some congratulations that the Java fam got from our governor and lieutenant governor as well. And so listen in right here.
Hi, Jimmy. It's Governor Maura Healey.
And Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll.
Congratulations on 4 years at Java with Jimmy. You play such a pivotal role engaging the community in Boston and really all across the state. You're an icon on and off the air.
Thanks so much for all the work that you do. Local news is important, and you are proof positive of how we can make it exciting and accessible.
There's a reason that your show was my first stop after being sworn in.
Can't wait to be back on the show soon.
And here's our question for you. How do we get our hands on some of those Java with Jimmy hats?
Come on.
Congratulations, seriously.
See you soon.
Listen, y'all, hold on for 1 second. Nobody says Java like the governor. Listen for 1 second.
How do we get our hands on some of those Java with Jimmy hats?
Come on.
Congratulations, seriously.
See you soon.
We definitely appreciate the governor sending those salutations as well. So Leslie, thank you so much for the reminder. Sandy, good to see you in the building, sis. My sister Sandy is in the building. Good to see you. Also, Belinda, I didn't look at it first. Estella was a great choice. The food and the service was really good. I thought she was going to say something about a Scully. That is the funny, Sean. That is the funny part. Oh, I said pot. See, that's from me listening to the governor. I fight very hard to pronounce my R's and not say park and park the car in Harvard Yard. But exactly. Java family. Leslie, of course, Leslie has a book out, you all. Please go and support her. I shared it on my page as well. Real said that he didn't realize anybody that has listened, this isn't pure fact, but I can tell you probably 40, 45%, especially now in 2024, of the people that were, everybody got to eat is over on Instagram cracking up. Shout out to brother Manny. I didn't thank him for Friday. Listen, the food on Friday, brother Diddy, Manny, we call him Diddy, and I really forget this brother's name. Can you let us know? Diddy Burger's curator, the chef at Diddy Burger. I always call him Diddy, and that is not his name, but everybody got to eat. Sneaker Reporter is over on Instagram as well as Nikki. Jamal Wernham is on there, one of our awardees. Teet, good to see you over there as well. Rashad, good to see you in the room as well. And so just as promised, Imari Paris Jeffries is getting ready to come in the room. I see him in the background getting tech together. We're going to talk about the harm report that was just recently issued in February by Embrace Boston. And so I'm going to do you a favor and bring him on and share the information. But additionally, do me a favor and don't start. That is so interesting because we all got hip to the Diddy Burger around the same time that some other stuff was going on. And so let's just clear the air real quick. And get ready to bring in no stranger to the Java Cafe, Imari Paris Jeffries, who is one of the first supporters early on, I think in December of, was it 2020, sir?
Yes, sir.
That y'all called me down to 12th Baptist and was one of the very first. Wait a minute, hold on, Imari. Oh, I peeped these at the sneaker ball. That you got a new pin on?
What's that?
You got a new pin?
Yeah, we try to switch the colors up. We try to switch them up. I got you one.
I heard that one. Well, Duncan told me that one. I tried to get one that night, and Duncan was like, employees got to have some exclusivity." But I'm a quasi. I embrace. I embrace. So if I could get one of the pins, and I'm messing with you. This is something that Imari and I just do. But brother, welcome to the Java Cafe again. Is that wall red in the background?
It is. It's kind of like an orange.
Well, we'll go with red. It looks red right now, so it's definitely matching the brand here, brother. But welcome, good morning, good to see you in the room. We haven't talked with you in a while, and so similar to our elected officials and those that are voices for our community, you move in spaces that, though there is achievement and success, it's a lot of fight often. And so I have to check in with you and ask how you as Imari are doing. Actually, have you been on since you became formally Dr. Paris Jeffries?
Yeah. We were on, I think, right after the MLK gala.
Okay.
We were rapping, and we got a chance to chat and catch up.
Okay, so we'll stick with the Dr. Paris Jeffries because we have to honor that. And so with that, and just what you do in community, we have to ask, Black man, how are you doing?
Man, I'm doing all right, man. I'm in this season where, man, three of my friends are getting married. Like every single month, I'm going to a wedding. So, man, I think I'm around love, and so when you're around love, it's infectious. So,
yes, sir.
I'm in a good place, man.
I'm definitely glad to hear that. We're going to see each other tomorrow. There's some things you're doing in making sure that when Black and brown folks like Sheena, when they come into the city, making sure that they know that there is a impactful, thriving Black population here in Boston. Yes. With that being said, Imari, we are doing well now. I don't think that we've achieved all of the equity and the inclusion that we deserve and are looking for. There's a lot of conversation on reparations, different opinions about how that is to be approached. In that, Embrace Boston commissioned and did a harm report. Can you share with me some of the background? Why did we do that? Ayanna Presley had said once, there's a lot of data out there. And so what does this new set of data, show us? And so we'll get deeper into it, but why the harm report? Why did you and Embrace Boston commission this, looking at the past and present? I'm going to get some things over here so we can share it with the audience.
Yeah, when we started, one of the things that was important to us was to engage in the reparations conversation, and this was long before the commission had been constituted. And so one of the things that we looked to was the work that was being done nationally by groups like NCOBRA, the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparation, and NARC. And so these are the two premier organizations nationally, I think, for years, for decades, have been advocating and fighting for reparations for descendants of formerly enslaved people. And so they framed, between 3 and 4 injury areas. So when we get to the piece around reparations, these injury areas would be the areas in which the redress would occur. And we thought, okay, if NARC and COBRA framed both these 3 and 4 injury areas respectively, could we combine those injury areas, add another injury area, and say, hey, what are the ways in which Black Bostonians have been injured? So how do we take this national framing and look at it on a local level? And so the harm report is a lit review. The only injury area that we don't talk about in the harm report is environment, which we did with the Green Ribbon Commission about a year ago.
Okay.
And so there are 7 injury areas that we look at. It's a literature review. It's an aggregation of the places in which Black folks in Boston have been negatively impacted by racism.
And those 7 areas, I had stated a couple of them before, and I did. Okay, so the tech is interesting. I think I'm going to be able to download it in the midst of us chatting here. But I wanted to let the folks know that we do have the link directly to the report there in the comments. And so if you want to check it out for yourself, please go and download it, sign up for Embrace Boston's newsletter. Shout out to Brother Greg and all of the folks there that are making things happen behind the scenes. And so I'm going to download it real quick to go over. But one of the things that really stood out to me, Imari, and I'll be honest, it's 146 pages. And I did do some skimming across it, but I want to ask you first, before I share with you what stood out to me, what was the most alarming thing in the report that stood out to you? You may have suspected some things. You're involved in community. What was a couple or one of the main things that stood out to you that made you go, wow, I thought I had an idea about this, but the impact of that was this? What was a few examples of those things?
I think you said it earlier, Congresswoman Presley, has said, these are things that we know. We don't need another report talking about things that we know through our lived experience. But I think, so while there wasn't anything alarming, I think for me, when I understood what these injury areas are, or at least understood NARC and then COBRA's framing of these injury areas, this idea of symbols, culture, and personhood as an injury area. And, I think a lot of times in the conversation, people, they'll talk about housing, you'll talk about the racial wealth gap, you'll talk about education, but we don't often talk about culture, symbols, and personhood. We feel it, right? We feel it when we're in a city that has less than 10 entertainment licenses owned by Black folks. We feel it if we're a Black person from out of town when we come here, and organizations like Boston While Black is one of those refuges for us, because we don't see ourselves. We don't feel like the cultural ecosystem for Black Bostonians is present. We feel it when we're in central Boston and we don't see monuments and memorials and other markers that say, hey, we used to live here. We live here. We're in a city that's 51% of color, right? Beacon Hill, the backside of Beacon Hill, the West End were Black neighborhoods. And so I think most Bostonians who are from here might not know that. Right. And so this idea that, this other report that we did a year ago with the indicators talks about the migration patterns of Black Bostonians, where neighborhoods like the West End, neighborhoods like the backside of Beacon Hill were Black neighborhoods in Boston. And we have continued to have to migrate to the southern parts of the city. And I think this culture, symbols, and personhood is an area where I think people will be like, oh, you know what, I didn't really see that or understand that fully as an injury area.
That housing, it's interesting, Mari. You and I serve on the Black Men and Boys Commission, and I was talking to a young man the other day. And when you talk about housing and placement and the symbolism, a few things tied into there, but that is one of the areas for Black men that is still a huge struggle. Single fathers that are taking care of their children, even if they're not single fathers, for the ability for a man to know they have a place to lay their head, while even if they're not, working or getting up to go to work. And that's something that I heard directly from a brother that has, as you said, has this lived experience. And so you said there wasn't that much that was alarming. What was one of the things that stood out to you that was in a good level, that the harm, it's a harm report, but what was some insights or some glimpse of impact, and we're moving the needle in some of those 7 areas? And I just wanted to go back and let folks know, just to reiterate, those 7 areas are cultural and symbols, housing, transportation, education, criminal legal systems, health, income, and wealth. And so, I'm a member of the Boston, a supporter of the Boston Waterfront Coalition. So for one quick second, if we can deviate, often Black communities' climate sometimes is perceived as not being a huge priority issue. If you can just speak to, it's not in the report, but if you could just speak to the importance of us as Black folks paying attention and being participants in climate justice.
Yeah, I mean, just take, for example, let's go to transportation. And so if you think about Boston's T system, that, we have a lot to say about the T, are the spokes of a tire, and downtown Boston more or less is the center. The area where the spokes are missing, where there's the biggest absence of spokes between the red line and the orange line, where it's mostly serviced by buses, is in communities where we live.
Yep.
Right. And so you talk about a section of the community that is a transportation desert. As a result of that transportation desert, we have more vehicles on the road, more vehicles that are not electric vehicles, more folks not being able to get to places without a car, but more cars in general. And so I think when you talk about climate, you talk about the city that has the largest, the part of the cities where we live has the largest transportation desert. And as a result, the more vehicle traffic, and as a result, more impact of pollution because there are more vehicles on the road in this area. And so these are the ways that these injury areas are interrelated. You also talk about the conversation that's happening around our green spaces, right? That green canopy provides the type of clean air, the type of outdoor recreational and spiritual places in our community. And so we also talk about areas, in particular, some of our roadways and some of the areas in our neighborhoods have the least amount of green canopy. And so that green canopy impacts how hot it is in a community. And because it's more hot, because we have more concrete, less green canopy, we're talking about the more need to cool our areas, more air conditioner, right? More folks who don't have the type of coolants and heating units, modern cooling and heating units, because it's so hot, because it's so cold, because we don't have that natural shelter, which impacts asthma and other ailments as a result of not having access to cleaner air, being in a place that doesn't have the type of tree canopy to provide the type of circulation. And so this is the ways that when we talk about climate, it impacts us most negatively. And so there is a report specifically on the impacts of communities of color on climate on our website as well. And this was a collaboration with the Green Ribbon Commission. And so, and I think, we like part of, trash in, trash out, right? You hear a lot of negative energy, you expel a lot of negative energy, it floats in the air, right? And so this narrative around Black deficits is what we're not trying to do with the harm report. I think this is ground setting, right? This is table setting, because what we really want to know, despite all of these negative factors, how are Black people able to thrive despite that, right? Despite these things that are being placed in front of us to not succeed. Those are the things that we're interested in scaling. We're interested in scaling Black success. And so in order to, I think for us, in order to begin this process, we wanted to table set. We wanted to frame the areas when we have this redress conversation and reparations, where the reparations would be played out, would be paid. And then we want to move forward and say, despite all this negative, despite all these obstacles, how are Black people still striving? I just saw a piece of data where it said that you needed $129,000 to live in Boston.
Was it a 1 bedroom?
For 1 bedroom.
Or 1 bed.
So despite that, how were people able to do this, right? How were people able to still live here? And if someone's able to manage their money and still live here, that's a brother who we want to get financial management advice for, because it's not about not being able to manage money. It's about not having the resources. And so we're having a different conversation. Black people know how to manage money. So it's not a conversation around money management. It's a conversation around resources that are available. And so that's what we want to address. Though, that's a brother who I want to talk to. Man, if you could figure out with not having $129,000 and being able to thrive, you are someone who, if you have the opportunity and the space to get the tools, imagine what you can do. And I think Black thriving is something that we're focused on at Embrace.
I love that. And I mean, one of the ways, and it's you sort of answered the question, but I also want to ask it again to make sure that we highlight, because you did say this is not and I'll put it in my terms, this is not 146 pages of so much woe is me. This is level setting, table setting. And then now I love how you said table. Let's have the conversations around reparations. And so I'm getting ready to bring something I forgot what page number it is, but I'm getting ready to bring up the piece about global reparations. And so, Dr. Jeffries, your thoughts here. And I want to, there's a lot of thoughts. I had the opportunity to attend the Embrace Fest, I believe it was in 22. And you had some national folks out at one of the local news networks talking about reparations. Before we get into this, or maybe I should ask it after, but do you honestly think, sir, that we will see something realistic? You talk about wealth, the racial wealth gap. Do you think that this is we'll see any iteration locally, nationally, of a municipality, of a government or whatever, actually writing checks? You think that's something we'll see in our generation?
I think we'll see redress. I'm not sure we'll see checks. And I think, redress will benefit, all Black folks. I think in this country, we have to start with descendants of formerly enslaved folks. I think the complication, to be quite honest, is, that I think where the tensions, the rubber's going to meet the road is reparations for who? Because if we live in a society that has discriminated and has created obstacles and barriers and threats of death and livelihood to Black folks, there's Black folks that have been in this country for generations that are not descendants of formerly enslaved people. And so the question is, should they be eligible for reparations? I think if you are a descendant of a formerly enslaved family, you most definitely should. But should we also include this other group? And I think that's where the conversation is. And I think sometimes, with proper evidence, people are nervous about when we go to and we gloss over descendants of formerly enslaved people. When we try to start including everyone, we definitely exclude the people that we're starting with, and I think that's where the complications take place. I don't think a municipality can afford to pay reparations to the scale that people will feel whole. I think some of the work that we're doing on a municipality, city level, and a state level is really case making for a national reparations conversation. We estimated, based on our studies and other studies, it's about $14.2 trillion owed to Black Americans as a result of slavery. And so, Boston city budget is we wouldn't have street cleaning. It's not possible.
We don't have $15 billion.
Yeah, we don't. So because it's a federal conversation. And so I think but there is a responsibility that a city owes, right? And so, for example, while there's a transportation desert between the orange and the red line, I think, Mayor Wu's plan and some of the buses, the 28 or the 19 that are free is a start, right? And so to provide free transportation in transportation deserts, is a form of redress for folks who live in that neighborhood. in that community. And there's other neighborhoods that need that type of support. The Fairmont line is another attempt at transportation redress. So, it's commuter rail. It's through, it goes through my neighborhood. It goes through different parts of different neighborhoods of commuter rail, but the price is the cost of a T, right? It's not commuter rail prices. And so that's a form of redress. And so I think, those are the ways in which municipalities can make good on past wrongs, but the financial means to scale the payments, it's not there on a municipal or a state level.
I heard a few things from you there, just to recap, because I think it's so important. This is a very hot topic right now, locally and also nationally. And what I heard from you was that in some of this work, some of this outcome of this work may not include, or part of it is not just writing a check, but it's also the redress in policies and things that have harmed Black people here in the United States. At best, there would be some way, if checks are ever written, what I also heard from you was there would probably be consideration right now, maybe of some sort of model of two tiers. One, those that can show direct lineage to those who were enslaved here in America, and then those who have felt all of the impact of the root of slavery in itself, and some form of either with redress or some sort of policy place, I don't know, tax cuts, I don't know, to where it may not come down to every Black American actually getting a check, but it doesn't mean that we stop the fight. And so I know this is an ongoing kind of building the plane as we fly, conversation when it comes to reparations. But that's sort of what I heard in understanding from a layman's terms, in reference to if it's going to happen in our lifetime. And it may not be just checks. It's in policy, like the free 28 and 23. That we got to also say, Imari, some of those policies don't just come out and say this for the Black folks. Can I just keep it 100?
Yes.
That the impact of it at its root has a large impact on us. Any response there before we bring the graphic up for reparations?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult conversation. Heather McGee, who you remember we had up, whose book, The Sum of Us, talks about this zero sum thinking that racism caused, right? This kind of like, you heard the saying that we're all fighting for the one piece of pie when we should be having a conversation about the whole pie. And as a matter of fact, there's like 100 pies out there. We could all have a whole pie. And so, it's tough, right? It's how zero sum thinking impacts all of us, including us as Black folks. And so, to your point, if the free 23 bus benefits other Black folks who are not descendants of slaves, do we have a problem with it as Black folks that other people are benefiting from our redress? That's the same conversation that some folks who are proponents of reparations say, hey, I wasn't around when slavery was here. My ancestors didn't own slaves. Why do they get something back, right? And so zero sum thinking says, if this group gets something, that means I lose. It has impacted all of us, white folks, Black folks, right? And so the opponents of reparations say they shouldn't get reparations because I wasn't around. It didn't benefit, I didn't do anything, right? And so it's hard when we say, hey, these are Black Caribbeans. Why should they get the free bus if that's a redress form? Like they were.
Imari, there's a conversation going on in here right now about our brothers and sisters who have migrated from other islands and have been here. But you listen, at the end of the day, most of the impact of what Imari is addressing, they don't look at you and ask, are you from Haiti or Jamaica or CV? And when applications and stuff, you can now, they have more categories, but this brings into a larger conversation. There's other parts we need to talk about. We just need the diaspora, sir.
Yeah, it's tough because zero-sum thinking is what racism causes, this scarcity mindset. And so it's the argument against reparations that some of us use on other Black people who they feel they shouldn't get it either. And so so it's tough, man. Like, it's something we have to address. I'm interested in, Jimmy, if you get something that makes you whole, that like I'm getting something and you get it too, like I'm happy you got it, right? I'm happy we both are getting this thing, right? And so and I think it's the same proponents, and Congresswoman Presley talks about this, who are anti student loan debt right?
Yeah.
Removal. Hey, I have to pay my student loan debt. Why do you get to all of a sudden have your student loan debt removed?
Well,
why does it matter to me? Sure, I paid it off, and now there's a program, so it makes your life easier than mine, right? Which is what our ancestors want. They always want the next. And so why do we have a problem? Man, if I paid student loans for 10 years and then there's a program and Jimmy, your student loans get forgiven immediately, I'm happy that we're both out of student loan debt, period. And so, but I think that's from Embrace's perspective, this zero-sum thinking, this poverty of empathy is the biggest killer or obstacle to reparations. That is the pain point. Even though I paid student loan debt, I would be happy if you got your student loan debt resolved and forgiven. Even if I get reparations and you benefit from those reparations that I get, I'm happy that you also get that, because that means we both are winning. And I think this idea that I lose because you get a benefit that I got is part of the challenge and the obstacle to reparations. And it comes from opponents, and sometimes it comes from folks who are saying, hey, how about us before these groups? And I think that's what we need to resolve. That's going to be the next big thing. It's the truth and reconciliation part.
There is a Dr. Paris Jeffries, brother. There's so much to unpack there. A few things I heard from you is, I say this often, that, equity doesn't mean that, those that have been in long-term dominant power, or in some cases perceived power, are necessarily losing anything. It also goes to the notion that when Black people do well, everybody is on some level of a come up. And within that, Black people, period, across the board, you know what I mean? And this I'm trying to frame it in a good way. This detail of who and what at what level, is interesting. I come from the philosophy, like you, no matter how we came up, as long as we're not hurting anybody or ourselves, you and I coming up as individuals only makes our circles and our community come up even more better. I didn't even mean to go that deep into that, but I think it's something, even based on some of the conversation and the comments that I'm seeing, that this space and others, these type of conversations are needed to ensure that as much as possible, we can unify around things and understand that though it may not present a check right away, we need to come together and put energy behind you and others that are going toward the redress, where there's the policies and the sustainable, because at the end of the day, if we all got checks, eventually money, if it's not invested right, that's going to run out. But if you got sustainable long-term policy that benefits everyone, but is focused on, you're the doctor here, sorry.
But check this out, right? Like, let's say there's some folks who are in a rural community and they actually get checks because there is no transportation. They get checks to be able to afford.
It's equitable.
I'm okay with them getting checks and we not get checks, right? Like, because it's based on, there's no bus system. There's no way in which to make the transportation whole in, like, I'm just, Omaha, Nebraska, right? Like Black folks in Omaha. And so let's say hypothetically they got checks because that is the way in which the redress, or, folks in Worcester, they get checks to pay, for mortgage down payments, right? and like that's what they decide to do, or that's what they get, and we don't get checks here because there's another way for us to get the same type of benefit from home ownership. I think that's fine. And so, and I think that's the piece, right? It some of it's going to look like policy, and some of it might look like, cash payments. And I think it really depends on, where people are at in the country. What is the most appropriate way for redress to occur? And so I think it's a federal conversations, but I think states will have to figure that out.
Definitely. I'm scrolling through here and trying not to get caught up in some certain pieces and move away into, some other pieces. One of the things as we get ready to wrap up, a couple of years ago, you were with me and we had this conversation. Wasn't able to make it, but we were talking about green space, and we talked about, equity in the marijuana industry, but then also Black spaces. The Embrace statue, media has also mentioned that, you're working on 2 other projects of symbolism. And so arts, space, and symbolism, can you talk to that in reference to the harm report? And then also I want to ask you toward the end, what is it that we need to do as residents, as Black folks, to make sure that we are supporting this and getting behind the work that you and others are doing to push policy, to push conversations, to push changes in policies and big institutions. And so to start that around the symbolism, the art and Black spaces, what did the report tell you, and what would you like to see in response to what the report told you?
I think one of the things that I think we all knew was that Black arts ecosystem is grossly underfunded in the city. And so there are not very many Black art and cultural institutions that are at scale here in town. And so did we know this already? Yes. It is, sometimes people feel like they're gaslit because they're like, I think it's in one place, you're not being gaslit. And so the harm report is confirmation that we are not being gaslit. If anyone, people could point, I'm not being it's here. And it's a lit review. It's not original research. It is an aggregation of existing research that is publicly available in one place. And so, I think in regards to monuments, I mean, just in pure straight English, monuments are marketing tools. They are billboards. They are cell phone towers. They are analog cookies. They exist in the background, right? Like when you accept the cookies on your computer, you're going to get ads all day to remind you that you really want to purchase those things. Mm-hmm. And so monuments do the same thing. They work subliminally to remind you who is in charge of a place, who is welcome in a place, whose values are recognized, and they work subliminally. They're signs, right? We don't even pay attention to the cookies and those ads in the background, but it is talking to our subliminal brains. And then we find ourselves buying those shoes, those items. And so monuments do the same. And so in a city like Boston, where there's a rich Black history, a long-term Black legacy of struggle, abolitionism, success, thriving, there are very few monuments that document that. And so people come to Boston, at least in central Boston, and I think this is the perception that like all of us as Black Bostonians are fighting against. There's this perception that we're invisible. We don't see us because those subliminal cookies, those monuments don't exist. You can't see them. And so they speak to us, whether we're paying attention or not. And so I think this idea of erecting more things in all the forms in which Blackness shows up so that our narrative is told is a part of Embrace's work. And so the Embrace Monument is just one. And, it's a place of, honor that also memorializes 69 other distinguished Bostonians. One, Sarah Ann Shaw, who just passed away, is memorialized at the Embrace. And there was a ceremony to honor her legacy there earlier this week. And so folks can come and visit the Embrace, visit Sarah Ann Shaw's name, leave messages. There are posters, flowers out there. And so it's a place that we can honor our ancestors. One place. There's plenty of other ones. There's faith-based institutions. There's other important monuments in the city, but the Embrace is a place where there are Boston legends that are memorialized there. And so, we're excited to have been able to create that. There are almost 9 of those living legends still with us. And so people, you asked me what they should do. They should reach out to some of those 9 living legends and spend time with them if they're able to. There's a lot of wisdom and history and knowledge that you can unlock by just spending some of the time with some of those elders. And I think last but not least, I would say, because we understand how our environment shapes the way that we feel, I always say to people, they should print pictures off of their phone, put them in frames, and place them in places that they spend most of the time with. People need to be surrounded by many monuments of love and have the ancestors or their kids or their loved ones looking at them and around them. It's going to fill you up. And those pictures are going to talk to you in ways that you won't understand. And you'll see people that love you looking at you at your desk, and you're like, okay, I'm good. So that's one thing I think everyone should do. Print 3 pictures. Print 3 pictures today. They're like 35 cents at Walgreens, CVS, or Spot, whatever the other, Shutterfly, something. Put them in some. They haven't got to be expensive frames. Put them in something so that they're out there around you in the environment. People could see that you're surrounded by your ancestors and people that love you, and that you see them.
And they see you, because a lot of, there's a lot of attributing, to the work that our ancestors have done and blazed trails in so many areas. Imari, so in that last answer, there was a lot of good preaching there. When you talked about the cookies, the symbolism of the cookies, that right there in itself can preach, because it is the constant sort of subliminal reminder. And to my brother Rob's point, I get it. And there's, he's saying, hopefully we can get a memorial somewhere that's not only visible to Black people. I would love a Black monument in front of the garden, a TD Garden rather. And so Rob, Embrace being down in Boston Garden, one of the nation's first public gardens, without a lot of symbol. I think prior to Embrace, Imari, if I'm right, there wasn't a symbol dedicated to Black folks in Boston's public garden.
I think the one that people mostly probably point to is the 54th monument
regiment at the
yeah. So like that would be the only other one that I think a lot, and it was renamed. It was the Shaw, but then I think they really need to understand the contribution, that it wasn't about Shaw, that it was really about the 54th. And I think if folks who are in Hyde Park, there is the practice field, the 54th. There's a monumental park down there with some nice signs. They need to be refreshed. But if you're ever in Hyde Park near the Reedville station, there's a park in Hyde Park which was the 54th's training field. And so like people should go down. There's a pavilion. There's a little playground. And so it's worth, a 10-minute, 15-minute walk around that park just to read those markers to get a complete story. And so there's a group of brothers out of Hyde Park that are a part of that legacy, and they do reenactments. So, shout out to the brothers running the 54th Regiment organization out in Hyde Park.
Absolutely. One of the questions when you talk about redress, and Imari, there's just so much here. I just saw Kevin White's name quoted one of the pieces there. I'm like, wait a minute. One of the things that's coming up in the questions is you talk about redress. Governor Healy just did the pardon, to some extent, some say expungement pardon, of those that were convicted in the spaces of marijuana. Do you consider that to be one of those policies around redress? Because again, we know in that particular case, in the war on drugs, not just, with the delineation of, powdered cocaine and crack. Do you feel that Governor Healy's move to do that is a sign of redress? And then are there further things we need to do in that space to make sure that, I believe it's over the line. I believe it wasn't just the introduction. That's a decision. That's yes. Now law.
Yeah, I think those are the form of redress, and to also look at the ways in which Black people and other people of color have been disproportionately targeted and convicted um, of accusations of crimes. I think that type of discovery and the overturning of those wrongly convicted, kind of the reframing of laws, are part of that criminal legal justice injury area that, where Black folks have been disproportionate. I think Brian Stevenson and the work of EJI does a wonderful job with both that new park that they built, the Legacy Museum, the Peace and Justice Memorial, and their ongoing work. Their legal aid work around overturning folks who are on death row in Alabama, in a state like Alabama, and some of those southern states where those individuals at an alarming rate have been convicted and arrested for bogus crimes. And so, I think that is the way in which we can begin having a redress conversation, and to point to the connection between slavery and mass incarceration, particularly of Black bodies in this country. And so I think an organization like EJI that uses art for storytelling, for healing, and to do case making, to talk about the connection. Boston was one of the largest places where ships were built that left empty, went to Africa, and then ended up in the Caribbean importing enslaved people. And so we have a role to play in our responsibility and our contribution to the transatlantic slave trade. And it's kind of this tension that we have as a city where, in people's minds, we were the good guys, we were the abolitionists, we were the North. But we also have a legacy of injustice, right? In the Harm Report talks about the case of where, and I'm brain freezing, forgive me, Boston was the place where separate but equal was established. The movie Sarah's Long Walk talks about the case where the Black family in Beacon Hill sued in order for their daughter to go to a school that was closest. She had to walk past several white schools to go to an overcrowded Black school, and the courts ruled against her. And that was the basis for separate but equal. And then that ended up being the case for Plessy versus Ferguson. So it was the foundational case for that. And so when we talk about how there's this history of precedents that started in Boston were separate but equal, you think of Plessy versus Ferguson that ultimately led to Brown versus Board. But the first case was here, where it was ruled constitutional that Black students could and should go to schools with other Black students as long as it was perceived equal, right? And that happened here. And you see that case being the seed that led to 1974 Judge Garrity, where we had a case of perceived separate but equal, right? And so I think there's this history where we're like, hey, we're the good. And I think when people saw the HBO Max Charles Stewart case, especially folks who are not from here or didn't grow up here or came here, more recently, and it's like there was like ghosts walking around, and I didn't even understand what was happening until I saw that documentary, right? They didn't understand where people were coming from.
A lot of young people too got the context. Yeah.
Got the context. And I think if we don't at least address this history, right? William Darity talks about reparations as a three-part process: acknowledgement, redress, and closure. And so if we don't start with acknowledgement and understand how we're here, we go to redress and closure, we're going to repeat the challenges, right? And I joke around, and it's like when you get in an argument with your wife, your partner, your spouse, and you just start with, hey, we got an argument, but here's your favorite item, here's your favorite candy, and we never talk about the fight in the first place. We just try to forget it, and I try to redress it by giving you something. That fight's gonna come back. It's gonna come back because we didn't acknowledge why we get in the fight. We just go to redress. Let me give you your favorite stuff. Let me take you out to dinner to ignore the real challenge. Let's just get to redress. If we don't do the acknowledgement part and dismantle that piece and really unpack why we're here in the first place, and we go to redress, which is like, here's how I'm gonna make it whole. We're gonna repeat it. And so, like, to answer that first question, is some of the things that are happening that are attempting to fix injury areas part of reparations? Maybe. But did we get to full acknowledgement of the racial discrimination that led to Black incarceration for marijuana arrests? Did we really unpack that and get into that? I'm not sure.
That goes to Rob's point. It's not a sign to him. It's not a sign of redress because it was only done, in his opinion, so they can make a killing off what they jailed us for. If it wasn't profitable, I don't believe it would have brought about change. I mean, the thing is also, you know, there is some legislation. Well, Rob, we can sidebar about that. Amari, I know we'll a little bit past your time. I there's just so much, and I don't know if similar to what Dr. Ojukutu did, that there were different iterations of the release of what they did in the report, and they focused on different parts during different times. And I know, excuse me for 1 second. I hope I'm not late for anything. Crap. If it's not Alexa, it's the phone, Jesus. But no, if at any point that you're going to do specific focuses on different parts of the report, please let us know. And definitely here to support it. But I appreciate you coming and
hey, thank you for having me as always, brother.
We did a deep dive into the reparations, and I believe that folks are definitely walking away with a whole different set of knowledge and tools around just to look at in a lens to see what's going on. So, brother, I appreciate you and thank you. And I hope I'm not supposed to be on a call. So let me get off of here and I'll talk to you soon. Oh, Amari was like, I'm out. Okay. So we're getting ready to get off of here, everyone, because that was Anissa that called, and I hope I'm not late for something. But this is definitely an ongoing conversation. I just wanted to put back up that where you can go in the comments, there is a hyperlink for you to go and look at the report. It is 146 pages, but it is broken down into the 7 sections. And so you can go, if there's an affinity section to you, you can go and focus on that. But we'll hear more from Imari Paris Jeffries in the next few months. They have the Embrace Festival that's coming up in June as well. And so thank you so much, Heidi and Belinda, Imari. What color are we wearing in the next way? Anyway, let me get off of here, folks, to make sure I don't get in trouble. Have a great day, everyone. We will see you tomorrow. We are talking with actually Tashad's sister, who is in the building. She will be with us tomorrow. She is running for a school committee. Is semi-poly, and we'll work that out because we're trying to stay good here. But we'll be chatting with her tomorrow. And then on Friday, as I mentioned before, I made a mistake earlier this week at 9 a.m., we get to have a Freestyle Friday exclusive with Nia Grace of Grace by Nia, of Daryl's, of the Underground, of Grace at Foxwoods. And so we're going to talk with Nia on Friday at 9 a.m. And so please plan to join us over the next couple of days as we close out this week. We got some great programming scheduled for you next week. On Monday, Dr. Brandy will be with us as we begin to talk about, it says Minority Health Month. That's what they call it, but I'm going to probably refer to it as Of Color a Month, because we're not a minority. We're actually a majority. Not only here in the city and across the country and the world, but all right, I'm going to get off of here before I get in trouble. Y'all have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.